The massive alien ship hung in the sky above New York, like a chrome dinner plate, casting a shadow over the bustling city below. Inside the UN building, Ambassador Tom Miller fought the urge to scratch his nose while facing three of the strangest beings he'd ever seen. The aliens, who called themselves council representatives, looked like tall blue humanoids with large eyes. They kept glancing nervously at the sunlight streaming through the windows, while their protective suits glowed with energy fields. "You mean to tell me," the lead alien spoke through its translator, "that you humans just walk around in this radiation, without protection?" Tom looked at the sunbeam falling on his hand. "Well, yes. That's just sunlight. We need it to make vitamin D, actually." The three aliens exchanged worried looks. One of them waved a device that looked like a fancy phone. "Impossible. These readings show enough solar radiation to cause severe tissue damage to any known species. We use sunscreen if we're out too long," Tom explained with a shrug. "Gets a bit warm in summer, but that's about it." The lead alien's large eyes blinked rapidly. "This explains why your world was marked as a death world in ancient charts. We assumed it was due to your dangerous predators or extreme weather, but it's you. Your species. You're the reason." Tom tried to hide his amusement as the aliens huddled together, chittering in their own language. He caught words like impossible and unprecedented from their translators. Finally, the lead alien turned back to him. "Ambassador Miller, we came here to warn Earth about a grave threat, but now we're not sure if we should be warning them about you instead." "I don't understand," Tom said, leaning forward. "What threat?" "There is a species called the ravagers. They've conquered 12 systems using advanced energy weapons that can melt any known form of matter. We came to offer Earth protection and evacuation options." The alien paused. "But you humans, you just stand in radiation that would kill most species. We need to run more tests." One of the other aliens had moved closer to the window, studying the crowds below with obvious fascination. "Look at them all, just walking in the death rays like it's nothing. No wonder this planet was quarantined." Tom couldn't help but smile. Here he was, thinking humans would be the primitive ones in this exchange. Instead, the mighty alien council seemed terrified of a sunny day. "Perhaps," he suggested, "we should move this discussion to our solar observation laboratory. We have some interesting instruments there for studying our star." The aliens physically recoiled. You study the radiation source directly?" "Of course. Would you like to see?" The lead alien's skin turned a slightly paler shade of blue. "I believe we need to contact the council for new instructions. The ravagers may be the least of our concerns." As Tom watched them hurry back to their ship, carefully avoiding any patches of sunlight, he couldn't help but wonder what other surprises this first contact would bring. Somehow, humanity's supposedly primitive planet had just become far more interesting to their new galactic neighbors. 3 days after the initial contact, Tom Miller found himself aboard the Council's orbital station, watching Earth spin peacefully below. The metal walls around him hummed with protective fields designed to block out cosmic radiation, protection that he and his fellow humans apparently didn't need. Ambassador Miller, the lead council member, spoke, its blue skin reflecting the station's artificial lights. "We must share disturbing news about the ravagers." A holographic display appeared in the center of the room, showing sleek, black ships that looked like angry wasps. Tom noticed how the other council species in the room, 6 different aliens from across the galaxy, moved away from the image as if it might sting them. "The ravagers have destroyed every civilization they've encountered," continued the council member. "Their energy weapons break down molecular bonds. Nothing survives. Even our strongest shields fail within seconds." Tom watched video footage of green energy beams cutting through alien cities like hot knives through butter. The destruction was impressive, but something caught his eye. "What's that temperature reading in the corner?" he asked, pointing to some alien numbers he'd learned to recognize. The council member blinked all 4 of its eyes. approximately 120 of your Fahrenheit degrees. Why? Tom tried not to laugh. That's not that hot. Humans work in steel mills that are much hotter. Some of us go in saunas for fun at those temperatures. The room fell silent. One of the other aliens, a small green creature, dropped its data pad with a clatter. Impossible, whispered another council member. The Ravager weapons cook organic matter from the inside out. No species can survive such heat. Tom pulled out his phone and showed them pictures from his last summer vacation. This is Death Valley, California. It regularly hits 130 Fahrenheit. Tourists visit for fun. The aliens huddled together, speaking in rapid, worried tones. Tom caught fragments about Death World adaptations and biological impossibilities. Finally, the lead council member turned back to him. We came to offer Earth sanctuary, to evacuate your people to safer worlds before the Ravagers arrive. But now what? Tom asked, genuinely curious. Now we wonder if we should be asking you for protection instead. Just then, alarms blared through the station. Red lights flashed as a new hologram appeared, showing 3 wasp-like ships entering the solar system. Ravager scout ships, someone shouted. They're ahead of schedule. The council members rushed to evacuation pods, but Tom stood his ground, studying the approaching ships with interest. A thought struck him. Wait, he called out to the retreating aliens. You said their weapons are just heat-based. Just heat. The lead council member sputtered. They're the deadliest weapons in the galaxy. Tom pulled out his phone again and dialed Earth's Defense Command. General Thompson. Yes, it's Miller. Listen, you know how humans can survive in desert heat and handle hot materials. I think we might have an interesting advantage over these alien invaders. The council members watched in shock as Tom calmly coordinated with Earth's military, seemingly unconcerned about the approaching doom that had decimated so many other worlds. One of them muttered quietly, "Perhaps we should warn the Ravagers instead." As the evacuation pods launched, Tom smiled at the remaining council leader. "You might want to stick around. I think you're about to see why Earth was labeled a death world, and why that might be the best news the galaxy's had in a long time." The alien stared at him for a long moment before settling back into its chair. "The universe has a strange sense of humor," it said finally. "The most primitive planet we found might be the only one that can save us all." Jack Wright was having a perfectly normal day guarding Earth's orbital defense station Alpha when the Ravagers attacked. As far as first alien invasions went, it was rather disappointing. "Is this supposed to hurt?" he asked over the radio, standing directly in the path of a green energy beam that the council aliens had warned would melt through any known matter. It felt about as dangerous as standing in front of a heat lamp. Jack, his commander's voice crackled through the radio. "Maybe don't taunt the alien death weapons." 3 massive Ravager ships had surrounded the station, firing their supposedly unstoppable weapons. The council representatives watched in horror from their reinforced bunker as Jack and his fellow human security officers walked calmly through the barrage. "Actually, sir," Jack reported, stretching his arms, "this feels pretty nice. Like a warm massage. Been having some shoulder pain lately, and this is really helping." Through the station's windows, they could see the Ravager ships moving closer, probably trying to verify why their sensors showed their targets were still alive. The energy beams intensified. "Okay, now it's getting a bit warm," Jack admitted, wiping some sweat from his forehead. "Like a hot summer day in Texas. Might need to hydrate soon." The council's lead scientist, monitoring from behind thick radiation shields, was practically jumping with excitement. "Incredible. The human skin is reflecting and absorbing the energy in ways we've never seen. Their natural heat tolerance is off our charts." One of the Ravager ships moved so close they could see its crew through the viewport. The aliens inside, looking like tall, skeletal figures in black armor, were gesturing frantically at their weapon controls. Jack waved at them cheerfully. "Think they'd mind if I took my jacket off?" Getting a bit stuffy in here. The ravagers responded by firing all weapons at full power. Emergency alerts blared through the station as the temperature rose to levels that would have liquefied any other species in the galaxy. "Now that's just rude," Jack commented, finally showing mild discomfort. He unzipped his uniform jacket and fanned himself. "Hey boss, remember that beach volleyball tournament we had planned for the weekend? Feels about right for that now." Through the chaos, Ambassador Miller's voice came over the general channel. "Jack, the council wants to know if you need emergency evacuation." "Nah, I'm good," Jack replied, pulling out a water bottle from his belt. "Though I wouldn't mind some sunscreen if this keeps up. Starting to feel like I might get a tan." The Ravager ships suddenly cut their weapons. Through the viewport, the crew could be seen frantically checking their instruments, probably trying to understand why the humans weren't even slightly melted. "Should we shoot back?" someone asked over the radio. "Hold fire," ordered the commander. "I want to see if they figure it out." The Ravagers didn't figure it out. Instead, their ships began backing away slowly, like someone who had just poked what they thought was a dead animal only to find it very much alive and rather annoyed. "Are they retreating?" asked one of the council members, peeking out from the bunker. "Looks like it," Jack confirmed, taking another sip of water. "Kind of anticlimactic, really. I was hoping for something more exciting for humanity's first alien battle." The Ravager ships suddenly turned and accelerated away at full speed, leaving behind only a lingering warmth and some very confused humans. Ambassador Miller's laughter came through the radio. "The council representatives are calling this unprecedented in galactic history. Apparently, the Ravagers have never retreated before." "Well," Jack said, finally putting his jacket back on, "I guess they never try to attack anyone who thinks their deadly weapons feel like a nice day at the beach." As the all-clear sirens sounded, Jack couldn't help but smile. Somewhere out there, the galaxy's most feared warriors were probably having a very interesting conversation about why their unstoppable weapons had just been stopped by some primitives who didn't even have proper energy shields. "Sir," he radioed to his commander, "next time, can we at least pretend to be scared? Just to be polite." The council's main laboratory aboard their flagship looked like a cross between a hospital and a mad scientist's workshop. Dr. Alan Reed sat patiently as dozens of alien scientists scanned, poked, and studied his skin with increasingly bizarre instruments. "Impossible," declared the head scientist, a tall purple alien named Dr. First. Humans couldn't pronounce its actual name. "Every test shows the same results, but they defy all known biology." Alan watched with amusement as his skin sample under the microscope caused another alien scientist to drop its datapad in shock. "What exactly are you seeing?" he asked. Dr. First's multiple eyes blinked rapidly in sequence. "Your melanin. It's not just pigment. The molecular structure, it's like nothing we've ever seen." On the main screen, a 3D model showed human skin cells doing what they'd always done. Nothing particularly special, as far as Alan was concerned. But the aliens were treating it like they'd just discovered dark matter in a coffee cup. "Look," Dr. First pointed excitedly. "When exposed to the Ravager energy weapons, the melanin molecules don't break down. They dance. They absorb the energy, redirect it, reflect it. It's like they were designed to handle intense radiation and heat." Another scientist, who looked like a blue giraffe, chimed in. "We've discovered why the ancient species marked Earth as quarantined. Your sun bombarded your planet with radiation that would kill most species. But instead of dying, we adapted." Alan finished. "Yeah, that's kind of our thing. Life on Earth either adapts or goes extinct. Basic evolution." The lab fell silent. "Evolution." Dr. First whispered the word like it was sacred. "Your species just naturally developed energy weapon resistance." Alan shrugged. "Well, not intentionally. We just needed to handle sunlight, fire, and heat. Our ancestors lived through some pretty intense climate changes. The ones with better heat resistance survived. A younger alien scientist who had been quiet until now suddenly spoke up. That's why their weapons feel warm but not deadly. The ravagers based their technology on thermal radiation, thinking no organic matter could withstand it. But humans evolved on a planet that tried to kill them with radiation every single day. Dr. First finished, and instead of dying, they turned it into a vitamin source. The excitement in the lab was reaching fever pitch. Aliens were running calculations, comparing notes, and making excited noises in various languages. Alan just sat there, wondering if he'd make it home in time for dinner. This changes everything, Dr. First declared. If we can understand how human melanin works, we might be able to develop new defensive technologies. Protection that doesn't rely on energy shields. Alan raised his hand politely. Quick question. If our skin is so special, why didn't you notice this during first contact? Surely you scanned us then. The aliens looked embarrassed. We did, admitted Dr. First, but our computers classified your biology as error, data impossible, and we assumed our scanners were malfunctioning. No one thought to check if the impossible data was actually correct. Just then, Ambassador Miller walked into the lab. How's the research going? Before anyone could answer, alerts flashed across all screens. The ravagers were returning, this time with a much larger fleet. Perfect timing, Dr. First said, surprisingly calm. Now we can gather real-time data on how human skin responds to their weapons. Alan looked at the approaching fleet on the screen. You know, where I come from, we have a saying. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Our skin already handles their weapons just fine. Ambassador Miller smiled. True, but I think the Council would sleep better if we could explain why their greatest enemy's superweapons are about as dangerous to us as a warm bath. Speaking of baths, Alan said, checking his watch, any chance we can wrap this up? My wife's making lasagna tonight, and that's way hotter than any Ravager weapon we've seen so far. Captain Lisa Barnes stood on the command deck of the U.S. Defiant, watching the massive Ravager fleet darken Earth's orbit. While the Council species evacuated in panic, she was more concerned about her coffee getting cold than the incoming unstoppable invasion. All units report ready, Captain, her communications officer announced, though the Council observers think we're insane for not retreating. Lisa took another sip of coffee. Well, let's show them why Earth doesn't need to run. The Ravager fleet opened fire, turning space into a light show of green energy beams. Emergency warnings blared across every screen, warning of lethal radiation levels. Lisa ignored them. The Council's safety systems still hadn't adjusted to human standards. Enemy weapons at full power, reported her tactical officer, sweating slightly. Actually feels nice in here now. The AC was too cold anyway. The Ravagers, clearly frustrated by their weapons' lack of effect, moved closer. Their flagship, a massive black vessel shaped like a hornet, positioned itself directly above the Defiant. Captain, her science officer called out, they're trying to communicate. The main screen flickered to life, showing the Ravager commander, a tall, skeletal figure in black armor. Its glowing red eyes widened at the sight of humans calmly standing on their bridge, completely unarmed. What manner of demons are you? The Ravager's translated voice boomed. Our weapons have destroyed countless civilizations. Lisa finished her coffee before responding. Yeah, about that. We checked the specs on your superweapons. They top out at about 140 degrees Fahrenheit. We've got a place on Earth called Death Valley that gets hotter than that. The Ravager commander's eyes flickered in what might have been confusion. Impossible. No organic life can withstand such temperatures. Tell that to my grandmother's cooking. Lisa muttered, then spoke up. Here's the deal. Your weapons are basically just really expensive heat lamps to us. So maybe we should talk about peace before this gets embarrassing for everyone. Instead of responding, the Ravagers launched their full assault. Green beams struck every human ship simultaneously, temperature reaching 150 degrees. Someone reported, "Might need to take off our jackets." Lisa watched as her crew casually went about their duties, some even appearing to enjoy the warmth. Through the video link, she could see the Ravager commander's growing horror. "Launch boarding teams," she ordered. "Let's show them what humans can really do." Marine squads launched from Earth's ships, their simple transport pods flying straight through the energy barrages. The Ravagers, apparently expecting their targets to be vaporized, had no close combat defenses ready. "Ma'am," her tactical officer grinned, "you should see this. The Marines are sending video feeds." The main screen split to show multiple views of human soldiers walking calmly through green energy corridors, while Ravager crews abandoned their posts in panic. Some were screaming about heat-immune demons and unstoppable monsters. "They're not even shooting back anymore," reported a Marine sergeant. "Just running away when we wave at them. Kind of takes the fun out of it." Within an hour, half the Ravager fleet had retreated. The rest were sending desperate surrender signals. "The council representatives are asking permission to return," her communications officer reported. "They want to document how we defeated the greatest threat to galactic peace without firing a shot." Lisa stood up, straightening her uniform. "Tell them they're welcome back. But first, someone please adjust the temperature controls. Now that the Ravagers aren't heating the place up anymore, it's getting chilly again." As she watched the mighty Ravager fleet scatter before the primitive humans, Lisa couldn't help but smile. Sometimes the best defense wasn't advanced shields or powerful weapons. Sometimes it was just being tough enough to stand there and let your enemy realize they couldn't hurt you. "Send word to Earth," she ordered. "Tell them the invasion's over, and ask if anyone wants to plan a beach party. Seems like perfect weather for it." Robert Cooper stared at his lab bench, surrounded by skin samples and alien technology. As Earth's leading biomedical engineer, he had a crazy idea, one that might change the galaxy's balance of power forever. "So let me get this straight," Ambassador Miller said, looking at the strange suit in front of them. "You want to make armor out of artificial human skin?" "Not exactly," Robert grinned, holding up a translucent material that shimmered like mother of pearl. "I've isolated the properties that make our melanin special and enhanced them. This is like human skin, but better." The council scientists in the room leaned forward with interest. After the failed Ravager invasion, they'd been desperate to understand humanity's natural defenses. "Watch this," Robert said, draping the material over a test dummy. He pointed to a Ravager weapon they'd captured. "Would someone like to do the honors?" One of the council members, still wearing their protective suit, nervously activated the weapon. The green energy beam struck the material and simply disappeared. No heat, no radiation, nothing. "By the stars," whispered Dr. First, "it's not just resistant. It's completely immune." Robert nodded proudly. "We improved on nature's design. Human skin can handle their weapons, but this stuff, it treats their deadly energy beams like a cool breeze." Ambassador Miller picked up a piece of the material, feeling its light weight. "And we can make this into protective suits." "Better than that," Robert said, pressing a button. The material changed color to match the wall behind it. "It can adapt like a chameleon, regulate temperature, and it's stronger than steel. I call it Enhanced Melanin Armor, EMA for short." The lab erupted in excitement as council scientists rushed to examine the material. One of them, a small green alien, actually started crying with joy. "You don't understand," it explained, wiping its eyes. "My homeworld was destroyed by Ravager weapons. If we'd had this technology." Robert put a comforting hand on the alien's shoulder. "That's exactly why we're not keeping this to ourselves. Earth is going to share the technology with every peaceful species in the galaxy." The room fell silent. Ambassador Miller stepped forward. "Are you sure about that? This could be worth less than saving lives," Robert interrupted. "Besides, we humans have a saying, a rising tide lifts all boats. Over the next few weeks, Robert's lab became the busiest place on Earth. Representatives from hundreds of species came to learn about the new technology. Some brought their own innovations to add to the design. "Look at this," Robert told his team one morning, showing them a modification suggested by an aquatic species. They found a way to make the armor self-repairing using principles from their coral reefs. The production lines were running day and night. Every peaceful world wanted EMA suits for their people. The Ravagers' greatest weapon had become useless overnight. The funny thing is, Robert explained to a group of alien scientists, "We never would have discovered this if they hadn't attacked us. Their weapons helped us understand our own biology better." News came that the Ravagers were abandoning their conquered territories, their fearsome reputation shattered by the knowledge that a primitive species had not only survived their weapons, but had developed perfect protection against them. "We're getting reports from across the galaxy," Ambassador Miller announced during a visit to the lab. "Species that were hiding from the Ravagers for centuries are emerging. They're calling Earth the shield of the galaxy." Robert just smiled and went back to his work. On his desk sat a photo of his grandmother, who had survived 3 different types of cancer. "Humans are tough old birds," she used to say. "We don't just survive. We find ways to help others survive too." As he watched aliens of all shapes and sizes trying on their new protective suits, Robert couldn't help but think how proud she would be. Humanity had turned its greatest defensive ability into the galaxy's greatest shield. "Next project," he announced to his team, "we figure out how to make it in designer colors. Even invincible armor should look good." 1 year after the failed invasion of Earth, the Galactic Council chamber looked very different. Ambassador Tom Miller tried not to smile as he watched Ravager representatives, now wearing simple brown robes instead of battle armor, sign the final peace treaty. "Who would have thought," the council leader whispered to Tom, "that the most feared warriors in the galaxy would be defeated by human sunbathing habits?" The Ravager leader, much less intimidating without his weapons, approached the human delegation. "We spent 10,000 years perfecting our energy weapons," he said, his voice carrying a mix of embarrassment and respect, "only to find that humans could resist them by simply existing." "Don't feel too bad," Tom replied kindly. "We didn't know our skin was special either. Sometimes the best discoveries happen by accident." The chamber's main screen showed live feeds from across the galaxy. Hundreds of worlds celebrated as their people walked freely under their suns, protected by enhanced melanin armor. Former Ravager victims now stood tall, their fears of energy weapons replaced by confidence. "Earth's Defense Academy is now the most popular training center in the galaxy," reported a council member. "Everyone wants to learn from the species that turned the Ravager's greatest weapon into a minor inconvenience." Tom watched as images flashed across the screen. Human instructors teaching alien soldiers, Earth scientists working with council researchers, and perhaps most surprisingly, former Ravager warriors learning new ways to protect rather than destroy. "The funny thing is," Tom addressed the chamber, "humans always thought first contact would show us how primitive we were. Instead, we learned that what we considered normal was actually extraordinary." A young Ravager student raised her hand. "Is it true that humans used to have contests to see who could stand in the heat longest?" "Still do," Tom laughed. "We call them saunas. You're welcome to try one, though we might need to lower the temperature for non-human visitors." The chamber filled with laughter, a sound that would have been unimaginable during the fearful days of Ravager dominance. Dr. First, now heading the council's scientific division, stepped up to present the latest findings. "Thanks to studying human biology, we've discovered 17 new principles of energy absorption. The applications go far beyond defense. We're looking at revolutionary advances in medicine, power generation, and space travel." "And to think," Tom added, "a year ago you thought we were primitive because we didn't hide from sunlight." The council leader raised its hands for silence. "Let this be a lesson to us all. We feared the Ravagers because they had the most advanced weapons. but they were defeated by the simple fact that humans evolved on a world that challenged them daily. Sometimes the greatest strength comes not from what we build, but from what we are. As the ceremony concluded, Tom received a message from Earth. He laughed out loud when he read it. "What's so amusing?" asked the council leader. Apparently, Tom grinned. Someone's opened a spa resort for aliens who want to experience extreme human relaxation techniques. They're calling it Death World Therapy. Are they offering those sauna things? A council member asked nervously. That hot springs and something called hot yoga, Tom confirmed. Don't worry. All participants get EMA suits calibrated to their species' comfort levels. As Tom looked around the chamber, he saw something that would have been impossible a year ago. Representatives from every known species, including former ravagers, discussing vacation plans to Earth, the same planet they once considered too dangerous to approach. "You know what the real victory is," he told the council leader. "It's not that we stopped the ravagers. It's that we turned their weapons into a non-issue for everyone. Now the galaxy can focus on more important things, like figuring out why humans enjoy spicy food." "Please," the council leader shuddered, one terrifying human resistance at a time. The chamber erupted in laughter again, and Tom smiled. Sometimes the best way to end a war wasn't with bigger weapons or stronger shields, but with the simple discovery that what made you different could help make everyone stronger. "Now," he announced, "who's ready to try some mild human curry?" The resulting panic proved that the galaxy still had some things to learn about human resilience.